Good evening, everybody, and hopefully welcome to my new YouTube channel, Can We Talk About It? And you may think, well, what's the point in setting up a second YouTube channel? The first one seems to be doing absolutely fine. And, well, unfortunately, it's not. I did a live stream on Tuesday night with Steve from Speaker's Corner. The title of the live stream, what we spent most of the night talking about, was extremism in the UK and how we were against all extremism. Of course, YouTube completely disregarded the main content of the program and decided to pick on a minor detail that we spent about 10 minutes talking about, which happened to be the situation that the Western world seems to have found itself in as a result of a certain. I'm very, very careful because you cannot actually talk about this on YouTube. Because if you talk about the subject I'm trying to talk about, you will lose your channel. I got a community guideline strike. Let me just put it this way. I got a community guideline strike on Tuesday night for speaking out against government policy. I'm not going to say any more than that because I don't want to lose this channel. But it proves the point that big tech and the governments are working hand in hand to silence dissent. And I remember a few years ago when the social credit system was first announced in China, and the Western media were going weak at the knees because the Chinese government had instituted a policy where dissidents would be excluded from civil society. They wouldn't be able to buy or sell. They wouldn't be able to do business. They would have a great restriction on the privileges that the Chinese Communist Party had given them. And quite rightly, the Western media were up in arms. Incidentally, what's happening in China with the social credit system is eerily predicted in the Book of Revelation in the New Testament. And I suggest anybody that wants to look at what's happening in the world and see it in some sort of context could certainly do well by reading chapters, well, in fact, the whole Book of Revelation, but certainly chapters 12 onwards, and see if you can draw any parallels between what the Book of Revelation predicts and what is actually happening in societies right the way around the globe. But getting back to Tuesday night. So I mentioned a certain government policy. Steve mentioned a certain government policy. We weren't overly critical of it. We could have been a lot more critical. And because we mentioned that government policy, which I will not mention on this channel, I got a community guideline strike and a 7-day ban, and the video was removed. And that the whole premise of that video was to speak against extremism. Just think about that. Just think about that. So I've set this channel up. I'm going to use this channel for doing interviews. I'm going to use this channel for promoting free speech. And the channel is very simply called Can We Talk About It? And we're going to find out what the boundaries of free speech are. Because obviously, if we cross those boundaries very, very quickly, we're going to be banned. So I'm going to ask everybody to do me a big favor. If you could like and share this video, subscribe to this channel, because this will be the channel that I will probably start using from now on. I'm going to use the other channel until basically they ban me, because no doubt what seems to happen is once you come into the eye of Sauron, so to speak, once the evil eye of big tech and government censors gets its teeth into you, you very quickly lose your presence on all social media platforms. You all know that many of us were purged from Facebook over 2 years ago now. It seems like 10 years ago, but 2 years ago, we had tens of thousands of followers. Some of us had hundreds of thousands of followers and had hundreds of thousands of people watching our content, watching our live streams on Facebook. And literally overnight, I think it was during the European election campaign in 2019, May 2019, we were purged. It was a Stalinist purge, and I mean it was a Stalinist purge. The icon for the channel that I'm using here, it's not on this video, but it's in the corner of the actual channel itself, is a picture of Alexander Solzhenitsyn. And it's very pertinent that we look at what happened with Russian dissidents and we basically use them as our example, because believe you me, this censorship that has been pushed upon us, like people like the vile, insidious Nick Clegg, this sort of censorship is designed to close us down. It's designed to stop us speaking out against government policy that we don't agree with. That is a frightening proposition in Western civilization. And many of you know I've spent a lot of time talking about various religions. I've spent a lot of time talking about the far right, the dangers there, a lot of time talking about the far left. But I think we face a far bigger threat at the minute, and it's the global progressive agenda, and we've got to fight back against that. I mean, what do they call it? They call it being woke. It's not being woke, it's being totalitarian. And some of the people that pretend to speak against being woke are the most totalitarian, intolerant inquisitors since the Spanish Inquisition. I've got to mention him, my favorite journalist, Piers Morgan, or whatever his name is. In my eyes, probably one of the most dangerous men in the United Kingdom at the minute. And he pretends to be a populist. He pretends to be a man of the people, when of course we all know that he's a multi-millionaire with an extremely shady background. He was, let me just get this right, he was called a recruiting sergeant, or he's told his newspaper article was a recruiting sergeant for Al-Qaeda when he published the fake photographs of British soldiers supposedly torturing Iraqi prisoners, a completely staged photograph that wasn't even filmed or shot in Iraq. And speaking of soldiers that were in the QLR, which was the regiment whose name was dragged through the mud by Piers Morgan, who incidentally keeps on telling us how proud he is of his brother that was in the British Army. I'm sure his brother wasn't proud of him. Piers Morgan is probably one of the major culprits. We don't see Piers Morgan getting censored. We don't see Piers Morgan's show being axed. Maybe he will. Maybe more will come to light about Piers Morgan in the days and weeks ahead. We can't hope. Anyway, this channel is going to be about free speech. It's going to be called "Can We Talk About It?" We're going to find out what we can talk about until YouTube decides to drop the hammer and ban us. But we'll talk about the social credit system in China. And I had a long chat with Tom from Zero News earlier on tonight, because Tom and I were in touch about what happened on my YouTube channel. Other YouTubers have been in touch as well. And of course, every YouTuber should be bothered about this, because it affects everybody, whether you're right, left, middle, whatever you are, it affects you. Because they can, for no other reason than their bizarre community guidelines, just rip your channel down. And all the work that you put in, all the videos, all those hours of videos that you put in can just be completely ditched and completely gone. And of course, many of us don't back stuff up. We don't have the hard drive space to back all our videos up, so they will be consigned to the trash can. But it's far worse than that. When you think about what they can do, they can stop you banking. This is big tech. They can stop you using PayPal. They can stop you taking online credit card payments. They can stop you selling stuff on Amazon. They can delete your Google account, so that all the email addresses that you've, or the email address that you've maybe used for 10 years, maybe 20 years since Google first started, they can get rid of everything. You can be completely disappeared by big tech. And as me and Tom discussed earlier, big tech is now doing the government's bidding. And of course, with the Biden presidency in the United States, don't think that freedom and the woke agenda are basically going to go hand in hand, tiptoeing around Capitol Hill. It's not going to happen. The far left woke government of Joe Biden will be pushing to silence dissidents across the globe, not just in the United States of America. We are all deemed to be dangerous extremists by the people who have the power, who have the money, and who have the influence. So we've got to do our best to communicate with each other, to protect each other's rights to free speech. In fact, no matter who you are, and no matter how distasteful I find your message, I fundamentally want to know that you still have the freedom to say whatever the hell you want, no matter how offensive it is. I don't want to see anybody silenced. I won't give people I don't agree with a platform on my channels. Why should I? But I 100% believe that they should have the right to speak, whether they're far left, far right, Islamists, liberal Democrats, Greens, whoever you are. I might detest your politics. I might even detest you, but you've got a right to say what you want to say in a free country. And that right has been taken away. It's been taken away by these platforms that we're slavishly using. We can use other platforms like BitChute. I think Parler's made a comeback, but I believe Parler's again been censorious now. What do we do? I don't know. I don't know. The other problem is if you set up a channel, website, or a social media network that was going against government policy, you would very, very quickly find yourself in court with huge legal bills that nobody except billionaire tech companies can pay. So it's really a cabal that is now run by big tech, probably the intelligence agencies of the countries that those big tech companies are set up in, and certainly the governments of those countries and the civil services of the very sinister times we're living in. But we will do what we can until we are totally silenced. And this channel that I've set up, it is there to protect free speech and to highlight these issues as and when they come up. Again, we will have to work within the guidelines and the community guidelines that YouTube give us, because if we don't work within the YouTube community guidelines, we'll lose our channels. It's as simple as that. Like I say, we've already been purged from Facebook. YouTube seemed to be on our side, but is this something new under the Biden presidency? I don't know. Remember, Talk Radio lost their channel a few weeks ago. So I'd ask you to like and share this. Let's get this channel shared. Let's get this channel followed. I think I had 10,000, just shy of 10,000 subs on my other channel, which wasn't great, but I never really put a lot of effort into it, to be quite honest with you. But I am asking people to like and follow this channel until such time as it gets ditched, and I'll work between the two. So watch both channels. Watch the one I've got a strike on, and watch this one as well. And let's just hope that some sort of sanity prevails in our society, because the very, very sad truth is when people's rights are taken away, and especially their right to freedom of speech and freedom to work and freedom to make a living, you turn people into very, very desperate people, and desperate people become dangerous. And anybody that knows me has followed my output for the past, I suppose, 5 or 6 years will know that I've always asked people to speak the truth, to stay within the legal and democratic process, and do everything within the realms of democracy. But if we start getting taken down, I fear to think what's gonna happen in Western civilization when people feel they absolutely have no option other than to take more radical action than just speaking up and lobbying politicians and having street demonstrations. I hope that doesn't happen, but that's what the government is going to push people to do. That's what the government's going to push people to do, and I don't want it, and I'm sure most sane and right-minded people don't want that to happen. But unfortunately, if people are pushed into a corner, they will react, and that is what's so dangerous about what the governments are doing, and they're blackmailing big tech into being the censors that do their bidding for them. And the government can say, you've still got free speech. You can say what you want, but you just can't say it on any social media platform. That's not free speech. Okay, guys, quite a long video, but I just want to get this out there. This is the new channel. Start following it, and let's see what happens next. See you all soon.